It's Wednesday morning, but it could be any day because these dancers are constantly working, perfecting their technique, making their jumps a little higher, and their landings a little cleaner.
It's freeing to dance on stage or to dance in a studio. It's something very spiritual about it to me because you can really seek yourself out. Like when you have a challenging combination or something, you have to find your inner strength to just tell yourself to keep going, you know?
It is such a great honor to be invited to join the Dance Theater of Harlem company. The fact that they've been known for so long and they've done so much, they've opened people's eyes of the fact that there is color in the ballet world. And the fact that I get to work with Virginia Johnson, who I've been looking up to for forever. The fact that I get to, inspire people more. And the fact that this company is back.
Founded in 1969 by Arthur Mitchell and Carol Shook, the Dance Theater of Harlem made its official debut on January 8, 1971 at New York's Guggenheim Museum with 3 chamber ballets by Arthur Mitchell. Mitchell was the first classically trained ballet dancer to break the color line.
This is the 1960s, and there were no black ballerinas. There were amazing dancers of color who had careers, but they had to go to Europe for that. Because at that time, only Arthur Mitchell was dancing in a major ballet company. There just was a bias against blacks in ballet. They said we didn't have the bodies, that we didn't have the temperament, that we couldn't understand the refinements of this art form. Now, Arthur Mitchell had a group of people who had all been said no to, who'd said, you can't do this, there's no way for you to do this. And he was giving us the chance to do it. So the atmosphere for us was joy and possibility and feeling very much like pioneers, feeling like we were on a mission. We had to change the world, and we were going to do it, and we were going to do it doing the thing that we loved. What could be better? We toured throughout the United States, and a lot of it was by bus, and we went to little tiny towns and college places, and that was wonderful. But the unexpectedness of Dance Theater of Harlem was what was so wonderful. People thought that it was going to be this, I don't know what, and that they saw a kind of beauty that they hadn't imagined before. And the joy that they experienced by seeing something that they hadn't imagined was repeated. Whether we were in Bermuda, whether we were in Finland, whether we were in England, we would go back to Sadler's Wells every other year. The first year we went to Sadler's Wells, we had such a success that they brought us back at the end of our European tour. They were sold out, completely sold out. People couldn't get enough of Dance Theater of Harlem.
Despite Dance Theater of Harlem's critical success, the financial toll from running the company, the school, and community outreach put the institution in jeopardy. By 2004, it was in a crisis.
All ballet companies are money pits. You don't ever make the money that you need for your expenses through ticket sales and touring. You are dependent on grants and subsidy from the government. You're dependent on money coming in. In 2004, they found out, after being laid off, that the company was going to not be started again. And for the majority of those dancers, that was the end of their career. They never got another job. So there was a lot of bitterness around that. It was too important to save Dance Theater of Harlem as an institution. The thought was to sacrifice the company briefly. Nobody imagined that it would be 8 years, to enable the organization to stabilize itself, to eliminate debt, to get to the point where you could once again assume the burden of a professional company. But to keep the organization firm was a necessity. To keep the school firm. So the school is an important part of our community, a very important part of our work as Dance Theater of Harlem, as is the educational outreach.
After her long career as a dancer, Johnson began a new profession working on a startup publication, Point Magazine.
When I retired, I'd been dancing for 27 years. I had been working for a very difficult taskmaster. It had not always been the most glorious life in the world. Even though I loved it, there were things about it that wore me down. And so I turned my back on ballet. I thought, enough of that. You've had half of my life. Point Magazine gave me the chance to look again at ballet. I got new respect for ballet. I come to believe that the dancers can save the world because they are such extraordinary people. They have real inner strength, real commitment, real focus. They are about doing the impossible. Not for the sake of ego, but to bring something of beauty to the world. And I didn't find that in the normal world. I found a lot of disengaged, skeptical people who worked 9 to 5 and lived for their weekends and cut corners and didn't do the best job they could if they could get away with it. And then Arthur Mitchell calls me up and he says, I think I'd like you to take over the company. You know, you don't say no to Arthur Mitchell. And I also realized that this was my chance to give back. This was my chance to do what he did for me, to create a future for another generation of dancers. He said to me, your job is to bring the company back.
However, finding dancers of color to fill the ranks of the company was not easy because of a lack of classically trained black dancers.
This issue of blacks in ballet is still not resolved at all. And I do feel very strongly that the 8 years that we didn't have Dance Theater of Harlem as the visible manifestation of the work and the mission of Dance Theater of Harlem, that we went backwards. That when I went to audition dancers for this company, and we went to Chicago, and we went to San Francisco, and we went to Miami, we were looking for dancers of color for the Dance Theater of Harlem, I didn't see many, because there still aren't that many dancers of color in ballet. And if you don't see yourself on the stage, you don't think there's a place for you. Or if you're in a school and you're the only one, you know, you've really got to be hell-bent to make sure that you make this happen because you don't see a future for yourself.
We have shows every Thursday for the public to come and see us. It's inspiring. If they get to see us, they'll be like, oh wow, maybe I can do that. Maybe that can be me. I can do something great like that. The fact that Dance Theater of Harlem is such a small company, it's perfect because it gives you opportunities that you wouldn't have in a big company. You really get to know all the dancers, and you have more individual time with the director and all the teachers. So I think it's nice, it really is.
The company is basically a group of artists that have been chosen to come together to bring high art to society. We all train so hard to be a part of this organization and to sustain the legacy that is Dance Theater of Harlem.
One of the things that's been really very powerful about bringing back the company is how much people have missed it. The power of this organization to communicate an important story, to the kind of beauty we bring to the stage, to the uniqueness of Dance Theater of Harlem. We are very much about not just being a company of color, we're a diverse company. We are committed to highlighting the relevance of ballet in the 21st century. I think that this art form can communicate so many things. When you see the classics, it is about structure and form, it is about heritage. But I think it's also about emotion. I think somebody who comes to the audience and sits and sees a performance, I don't think they should be sitting there and going, oh, that leg is so high, oh, they did 15 pirouettes. I think that they should be seeing something that reflects the life that they're living and gives them something to walk away with, to think about, to be happy about, to be uncertain about. Because I think that's what performance is for. It's to engage. It's not to entertain. It's to make something happen for you that changes you.